A wealthy CEO falls for a runaway bride hiding in his jet. She's escaping an arranged marriage as she whispered her name. Kira Johnson. Logan's blood went cold. He knew that name. His company's biggest deal depended on the family she'd just betrayed. What would you do if helping a stranger could destroy everything you built? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The billionaire found her curled in his cargo hold at 30,000 feet, a runaway bride in torn silk, clutching a birth certificate like a lifeline. Logan Pierce had seen everything in his 15 years building an aviation empire. Corporate spies, hostile takeovers, boardroom betrayals that would make Hollywood screenwriters weep. But he'd never found a woman in a destroyed wedding dress hiding between his luggage compartments. The private jet hummed through Vegas airspace, carrying him toward the most important investor meeting of his career. $2 billion in merger deals hung in the balance. His phone buzzed with updates from Manhattan. Everything perfect, everything on schedule. Then he heard crying. Not the kind of tears you shed over spilled wine or misconnections. These were the broken sobs of someone whose world had just exploded. Logan followed the sound to the cargo area, expecting maybe a sick passenger who'd wandered back. Instead, he found her. She was maybe 24, with dark skin that glowed even in the harsh cabin lighting. Her wedding dress, once probably worth more than most people's cars, hung in shreds around her shoulders. Mascara painted dark rivers down her cheeks. In her white-knuckled grip, she held a folded document in a duffel bag that looked like it had been packed in 30 seconds. Their eyes met. "Please," she whispered, voice cracking. "Don't turn me in." Logan's mind raced through possibilities. Stowaway, criminal, mentally unstable passenger. His security team would have protocols for this. The smart move was alerting the pilot, making an emergency landing, handing her over to authorities. But something in her eyes stopped him cold. Fear, yes. Desperation, absolutely. But underneath all that terror lived something he recognized from his own mirror during the foster care years. The look of someone fighting for survival. "What's your name?" he asked, crouching down to her level. "Kira," she breathed. "Kira Johnson." The name hit him like ice water. Johnson, as in Senator Robert Johnson. As in the Johnson family that owned half of Georgia's political machine. As in the same Johnsons whose daughter had just married into the Morrison dynasty in what every business magazine called the wedding of the decade. Have you ever run from something that felt like a cage? Maybe it was a job that crushed your soul, or a relationship that made you disappear piece by piece. Tell me in the comments. What would make you desperate enough to hide in a stranger's plane? This woman hadn't just run from her wedding. She'd fled from one of the most powerful families in the South. And now she was 30,000 feet above Nevada, begging a man she'd never met to save her from whatever had driven her to climb in a cargo hold. Logan stared at her, calculating. His merger depended on political connections. The Johnson family controlled transportation permits his company needed. Helping their runaway daughter could destroy everything he'd built. But as she whispered her story, the arranged marriage, the family that treated her like property, the desperate escape through a bathroom window, Logan made a choice that would change both their lives forever. What would you do if helping a stranger could destroy everything you built? He reached out his hand. As she whispered her name, Kira Johnson, Logan's blood went cold. He knew that name. His company's biggest deal depended on the family she'd just betrayed. The woman he wanted to protect was the same woman who could destroy his billion-dollar empire with her disappearance. Logan's phone buzzed against his chest like a time bomb. News alerts flooded the screen faster than he could read them. Senator's daughter-in-law vanishes on wedding day. Missing bride sparks statewide search. Johnson family offers reward for safe return. Each headline was another nail in his financial coffin. Kira sat across from him now, wrapped in his jacket, still shaking. She'd cleaned the mascara from her face, but nothing could hide the haunted look in her dark eyes. The birth certificate lay folded on the table between them, like evidence in a murder trial. "You know who I am?" she said. Not a question. Logan nodded slowly. "Your family owns Morrison Industries. My company just signed a $2 billion partnership with them. The deal that's supposed to close next week. Her laugh came out bitter and broken. Let me guess. The wedding was part of the business arrangement. The marriage creates a merger between two of the South's biggest political dynasties. Transportation, construction, media. Your husband's family controls infrastructure contracts worth. He's not my husband. The words cut through the cabin like a blade. That ceremony was supposed to happen in 4 hours. I was supposed to smile and promise to love a man I'd met exactly 3 times. A man who told me on our second meeting that wives should be seen, not heard. Logan watched her hands shake as she reached for the water bottle he'd given her. Everything about this woman screamed class and breeding. The way she held herself, her perfect diction even when terrified, the unconscious grace in her movements. But her fear was raw and real. You don't understand, she breathed, eyes locked on his. That wedding wasn't love. It was a business transaction, and I was the commodity. The jet hit turbulence, throwing them closer together. Her hand instinctively grabbed his arm for balance. The contact sent electricity shooting through his nervous system. Dangerous, unwanted, completely inappropriate given the circumstances. But he didn't pull away. The dress, he said, gesturing to the destroyed silk and lace. How did you? Bathroom window, 3 stories up. Climbed down the trellis like some kind of movie character. She almost smiled at the memory. Ruined a $20,000 gown, but it was worth it to see their faces when they realized the bride had literally flown the coop. Logan's chest tightened with something that felt dangerously like admiration. This woman had risked everything, money, family, social standing, for the right to choose her own life. His phone rang. Marcus Chun, his business partner, calling from their Manhattan office. Don't answer it, Kira said quietly. He'll keep calling until I do. Then lie to him. Please. Just until we land. Have you ever felt like your life wasn't your own? Like someone else was making all your choices? Share your story below, because every person deserves the right to choose their own path, even when that choice terrifies everyone around them. When his phone rang again, her family's private investigator already tracking the jet's route. Logan faced an impossible choice. Land and turn her in, or become an accomplice to the crime that could end everything he'd built. He switched off the tracking system and changed course. The moment a CEO became a criminal for a woman he'd known 3 hours. Logan's fingers hovered over the navigation controls. One button would maintain their flight plan to New York, where reporters and Johnson family lawyers waited like vultures. Another would reroute them to his private airfield upstate, where no one could find them. Where no one could find her. Sir, the pilot's voice crackled through the intercom. We're getting requests from air traffic control. They want to know our passenger manifest. Kira's face went white. They're already tracking us. Logan made his choice. He flipped the tracking system to offline and punched in new coordinates. Change of plans, Captain. We're going to the mountain house. The pilot's hesitation lasted exactly 3 seconds. Yes, sir. Kira stared at him like he'd just jumped off a cliff. You're really doing this? Helping me? Looks that way. What? Her voice broke on the word. You don't know me. I could be lying about everything. I could be dangerous. Logan studied her face, the exhaustion, the fear, the desperate hope she was trying to hide. Are you dangerous? She laughed, a sound caught between hysteria and relief. I've never made a single choice about my own life until today. Everything, school, clothes, friends, career, was decided for me. The most rebellious thing I ever did was reading books they didn't approve of. The Cessna descended through cloud cover toward his private compound. Autumn painted the mountains in gold and crimson, beautiful and dangerous, like the woman beside him. His jacket swallowed her small frame, but somehow she looked stronger now than when he'd found her. What books? He asked. Homosi novels. They said they gave women unrealistic expectations about love. What kind of expectations? That it should be a choice. That it should feel good. That the person you're with should actually like who you are instead of trying to reshape you into someone else. Something twisted in Logan's chest. He built his empire on making smart decisions, calculating risks, playing percentages. Nothing about this choice made business sense. Everything about it felt right. Kira reached across the small space between their seats. Her fingers brushed his hand, hesitant, grateful, electric. "Thank you," she whispered. The contact lasted maybe 3 seconds. Long enough for him to notice how soft her skin was. Long enough to catch her scent, something floral and expensive that belonged in ballrooms, not cargo holds. Long enough to realize he was in serious trouble. What's the biggest risk you've ever taken for someone you barely knew? Tell me in the comments, because sometimes the most dangerous choice is the only one that lets you sleep at night. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. The Johnson family is mobilizing everything. Private investigators, law enforcement contacts, media connections. They're not just looking for her, they're preparing for war. As they landed, Logan's head of security was waiting on the tarmac with news that changed everything. "Sir, there's been a development. The Johnson family isn't just looking for her. They're offering $10 million for her return. No questions asked." His mountain estate was supposed to be her sanctuary, until she realized the real danger wasn't her family finding her, but her finding herself in his arms. The stone mansion nestled into the mountainside like it had grown there. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed interiors that whispered wealth rather than shouting it. Understated power that spoke of a man who had nothing to prove. Kira stepped out of the car on unsteady legs. After hours in that destroyed wedding dress, every muscle ached. But it was the emotional exhaustion that threatened to knock her flat. "How long have you owned this place?" she asked, following Logan up Stepp's car from local granite. 8 years. Bought it the day my company went public." He glanced back at her. "Needed somewhere to think without lawyers and reporters breathing down my neck." The front door opened to reveal a man built like a linebacker, but wearing an apron covered in flour. He took one look at Kira and raised an eyebrow. "Jake, meet Kira. She'll be staying with us for a while." Jake's eyes moved from her torn dress to Logan's protective stance. "How long is a while? Until it's safe." "Safe from what?" Logan's jaw tightened. "Her family." Jake studied them both for a long moment, then stepped aside. "Guest room's ready. Fresh towels in the bathroom. Dinner in an hour." The guest suite was bigger than Kira's childhood bedroom, decorated in soft blues and creams that made her feel instantly calmer. But it was the bathroom that nearly made her cry. A massive soaking tub, rainfall shower, and thick towels that screamed luxury. She locked the door and stripped off the wedding dress with shaking hands. The silk and lace that had taken 6 months to design fell to the marble floor like shed skin. The hot water felt like resurrection. Steam filled the glass enclosure as she scrubbed away makeup, hairspray, and the lingering scent of the church where she was supposed to have pledged her life to a stranger. For the first time in 24 hours, she could breathe. When she emerged 30 minutes later, she found Logan's clothes laid out on the bed. Columbia sweatshirt, jeans that would be too long, thick socks. Everything smelled like him, clean and masculine and safe. She wore his sweatshirt like armor, sleeves rolled up to reveal wrists that looked delicate against the heavy fabric. The jeans required a belt and serious rolling at the ankles, but she'd never felt more comfortable in clothes. Logan was waiting in the kitchen, stirring something that smelled like heaven. He'd changed too. Gone were the tailored suit and Italian leather shoes, replaced by jeans and a Henley that showed off shoulders broad enough to carry the world. "Feel better?" he asked without turning around. Like a different person. When he finally looked at her, something shifted in his expression. She caught her reflection in the stainless steel refrigerator. Face scrubbed clean, hair in a messy bun, swimming in his clothes. She looked young and vulnerable and nothing like the sophisticated Johnson family daughter. "You look..." He stopped, cleared his throat. "The sweatshirt suits you." When she reached for the sugar, the fabric lifted just enough to show a strip of skin above the borrowed jeans. His eyes tracked the movement, then quickly looked away. Have you ever felt safer with a stranger than with your own family? When did you know someone truly saw you? Drop a heart if you found that rare person who makes you feel at home in your own skin. The security alert wasn't about her family. It was Logan's business partner demanding an emergency video call. As Marcus appeared on screen, his eyes went wide. "Logan, what the hell is the Johnson girl doing in your kitchen?" The man Logan trusted most had been selling his secrets, and now Kira's location, to the highest bidder. Marcus Chen's face filled the laptop screen with the smug satisfaction of a man holding all the cards. Behind him, Logan could see suited figures moving in what looked like the Johnson family's Atlanta headquarters. "Surprised to see me here, Logan?" Marcus leaned back in an expensive leather chair. "Senator Johnson flies a very nice private jet, much more comfortable than commercial." Kira stepped backward, but Logan caught her hand. "How long?" he asked quietly. "How long have I been feeding information to your business partners?" "About 6 months. Ever since you started getting too comfortable with success." Marcus adjusted his tie. "You always were too trusting." Logan's mind raced through the implications. Every deal, every strategy session, every private conversation. Marcus had been there for all of it. "The merger," Logan said. "Oh, that's still happening. Just not the way you planned." Marcus gestured to someone off camera. "The Johnson family has decided your company would be better managed by someone more cooperative." "You son of a..." Language, Logan. "There's a lady present." Marcus's smile turned cold as he looked at Kira. "Speaking of which, Miss Johnson, your family is very worried about you. They've asked me to extend a personal invitation to come home." Kira found her voice. "I'm not going anywhere with you. I don't think you understand the situation. Your little adventure has created some problems. Stock prices, investor confidence, political relationships, all taking a hit because the Johnson family's perfect daughter decided to throw a tantrum." "A tantrum?" Kira's voice rose. "I refuse to marry a stranger." "Details." Marcus waved a dismissive hand. "The point is, you're going to fix this. Tonight, there's a helicopter en route to Logan's location. You'll be in Atlanta by midnight, married by tomorrow morning, and this whole mess gets swept under the rug." Logan stepped protectively in front of Kira. "Like hell." "Choose, Logan," Marcus said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Your empire or your stray. The merger goes through with or without your cooperation. But if you hand over Miss Johnson voluntarily, you might keep a small piece of what you built. And if I don't, then you lose everything. The company, the contracts, the reputation you spent 15 years building. Your choice." Behind Marcus, men in expensive suits consulted tablets and whispered among themselves. Legal teams, Logan realized, they weren't just planning a hostile takeover. They were preparing to destroy him completely. "You have 1 hour," Marcus continued. "Then we start making calls to the SEC, the FAA, and every regulatory body that's ever signed off on one of your deals. Amazing how many violations we can find when we really look." The screen went black. Kira's hand tightened in his. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I never meant for this to happen to you." Logan turned to face her, and the fear in her eyes nearly broke his heart. "This isn't your fault, isn't it? Your partner is right. I'm just a runaway bride who's destroying everything she touches. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? How did it change you? Share below, because sometimes the people closest to us are the ones holding the knife." As they raced down the mountain road, Kira's hand covered his on the gear shift. "Pull over," she said quietly. When he looked at her in confusion, she added words that stopped his heart. "I'm going back to them. Tonight." She was willing to walk back into her cage to save his empire, until he proved he'd rather burn it all down than lose her. Logan pulled off at a scenic overlook where the Hudson Valley spread below like a painting. The car engine ticked in cooling silence while their hearts hammered against the decision that would define them both. No, the word came out harder than he'd intended. Absolutely not. Kira turned in the passenger seat to face him. Even in his oversized clothes, even with her hair still damp from the shower, she looked like royalty preparing for execution. "Logan, listen to me. Your company can go to hell." "You don't mean that." "Don't I?" He twisted to face her fully. "You want to know what my company was before I met you? Numbers on a spreadsheet. Stock prices. Profit margins. Just another way to prove I wasn't the throwaway foster kid anymore." Her eyes glistened. "That's not true."
"It is true. I built Pierce Aviation to show the world I mattered. But you know what? None of it matters if I have to buy it with your freedom." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I can't let you lose everything because of me." Logan reached across the console, framing her face with his hands. Her skin felt impossibly soft under his palms. You want to know what I'd be losing if you go back to them? The first person who ever made me want to protect something more than I want to win. The first woman who looked at me and saw a man, not a bank account. Logan, I've spent my whole life being what other people needed, she told him in the kitchen. Now he understood what she meant. Let me be what I want for once, he whispered, echoing her earlier words. When he kissed her, it tasted like rebellion and promises. Her hands fisted in his shirt as she kissed him back with all the passion she'd never been allowed to feel. I've never, she started, then stopped. Never what? Chosen this. Chosen someone because I wanted them, not because I was supposed to. Something fierce and possessive roared to life in his chest. Choose me now. She did. The back seat of his Mercedes wasn't built for romance, but desperation made them creative. He lifted her over the console, settling her across his lap with reverent hands. Is this okay? He whispered against her neck. Yes, she breathed, surprised by how much she meant it. He undressed her like he was unwrapping something sacred. Each touch asked permission. Each kiss was a question she answered with sighs and soft moans. When she arched against him, he caught her mouth in a kiss that promised everything. I've got you, he murmured. I won't let them take you. She moved against him with growing confidence, claiming her pleasure like she was finally claiming her life. When she cried out his name, it sounded like freedom. Afterward, they lay tangled together, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. What happens now, she asked. Now we fight. Against my family? Your ex-partner? The entire Georgia political machine. Logan's arms tightened around her. Against anyone who thinks they could decide your life for you. When was the last time someone chose you over everything else? Tell me about a moment when you felt truly chosen, because that's when you know someone loves the real you, not the version they want you to be. As they drove back toward the mountain house, his phone buzzed with a message that changed everything. Your girl's got more secrets than you know. Check her birth certificate. A friend. The document she'd clutched during her escape held the key to everything. The birth certificate she'd guarded so desperately didn't just prove her identity. It proved she was worth more than anyone imagined. Back at the mountain house, Logan spread the birth certificate on his kitchen table like evidence in a murder trial. The paper was worn soft from handling, edges yellowed with age. Kira sat across from him, wrapped in a blanket, watching him read with growing confusion. I don't understand, Logan said slowly. According to this, Robert Johnson isn't your father. What? Kira leaned forward. That's impossible. He raised me. He's been my dad since I was 3. Logan pointed to a line on the document. Your biological father was Thomas Mitchell. The name hit the room like a bomb. Thomas Mitchell, Kira repeated. Why does that sound familiar? Because Mitchell Aviation was Pierce Aviation's biggest competitor until 5 years ago. Logan's voice grew quiet. Thomas Mitchell died in a plane crash, left behind a company worth $3 billion. Kira's face went white. You're saying? I'm saying the Johnson family has been controlling an inheritance that should have been yours. Logan ran his hands through his hair. The marriage to Morrison's son wasn't just about political power. It was about making sure you never found out who you really are. The pieces clicked together with devastating clarity. Her adoptive family's sudden interest in her marriage, the rush timeline, the absolute insistence that she marry a stranger. They've been lying to me my entire life. Her voice broke on the words. Logan moved around the table, pulling her into his arms. They've been stealing from you your entire life. She cried then, not the desperate sobs from the plane, but the deep, wrenching grief of someone whose whole world had been built on lies. He used to tell me stories, she whispered against Logan's chest, about my real parents. Said they died in a car accident. Said I was lucky the Johnson family took me in. Kira, listen to me. Mitchell Aviation wasn't just any company. Your biological father revolutionized air traffic control systems. The patents alone are worth hundreds of millions. She pulled back to look at him. Are you sure? Logan grabbed his laptop, fingers flying over the keys. Within minutes, he pulled up articles, financial reports, legal documents. The picture they painted was staggering. Thomas Mitchell, genius inventor, devoted father, multi-billionaire, died when his daughter was 3 years old, leaving everything to her in a trust that would activate on her 25th birthday. "Look at this," Logan said, pointing to a legal filing. The Johnson family was named as trustees. They were supposed to manage your inheritance until you came of age. Instead, they've been using it to fund their political careers. Kira's shock was turning to anger. And when I turned 25 next month, they'd lose control of everything. Unless you were married to someone they could control. The room fell silent as the full scope of the deception sank in. Have you ever discovered something about your past that changed everything you thought you knew? Share your story, because sometimes the truth we've been running from is actually the key to our freedom. As the truth settled around them like dust after an explosion, Logan's phone rang. Marcus again, but this time his voice held fear. "They're not just coming for her, Logan. They're coming for you both. And they're bringing lawyers, guns, and enough money to make you both disappear forever." They went from lovers on the run to players in a billion-dollar war, with targets painted on their backs. The call from Marcus lasted exactly 30 seconds, but it changed everything. "They know about the birth certificate," Logan said, hanging up. Someone tipped them off. Kira was already moving, stuffing clothes into the duffel bag she'd arrived with. "How long do we have?" "Not long. Jake's got a safe house in Albany. We need to move now." They threw essentials into Logan's Range Rover as Jake emerged from the house, carrying a black tactical bag. 3 vehicles just turned on a mountain road, Jake said grimly. "Professional drivers. Tinted windows. They're not here to talk." Logan's jaw tightened. "How did they find us so fast? Does it matter?" Kira climbed into the passenger seat. "Let's go." The next 2 hours turned into a nightmare of back roads and close calls. Logan drove like he was racing for their lives, which Kira realized he probably was. The safe house in Albany looked innocent enough from the outside. White siding, flower boxes, the kind of place where soccer moms lived with their golden retrievers. But Jake had turned it into a fortress. Security cameras on every approach. Jake explained as they hurried inside. Panic room in the basement. Enough supplies to last 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Kira sank onto the couch. "What are we supposed to do for 2 weeks?" "Figure out how to fight back," Logan said. That night, as they tried to process everything that had happened, Kira found herself in the bathroom Logan was using, tending to cuts on his hands from their desperate escape through the woods. "You didn't sign up for this," she said, dabbing antiseptic on his scraped knuckles. "Neither did you." The bathroom was small, forcing them close together. She could feel the heat radiating from his body, smell the mixture of adrenaline and aftershave that was becoming as familiar as her own heartbeat. "I keep thinking about what you said," she whispered, "about choosing what I want instead of what I'm supposed to want. What do you want?" Instead of answering with words, she rose on her toes and kissed him. Not the desperate passion from the car, but something deeper, a choice made in complete freedom. His hands settled on her waist, steadying them both. "Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything." They made love slowly this time, savoring each touch, each whispered endearment. In a world where everything else was chaos, they created a pocket of peace that belonged only to them. Afterward, wrapped his arms on the narrow bed, Kira felt something she'd never experienced before. Safety that came from being chosen, not assigned. "We're going to win this," Logan murmured against her hair. "How can you be so sure?" "Because now I know what I'm fighting for." Have you ever had to rely completely on someone else for survival? What did that teach you about trust? Drop a comment below, because sometimes the most dangerous situations reveal who people really are. Their moment of peace shattered when Jake's voice came through the intercom. "Turn on the news." Channel 7. Now, the headline made them both freeze. "Missing bride found dead in hotel room." The woman on screen wasn't Kira, but someone had gone to great lengths to make it look like her. Someone wanted the world to believe she was gone forever. Being declared dead gave them the ultimate freedom and the perfect opportunity for revenge. The hotel room on the news looked like a crime scene. Blood on the sheets, a wedding dress torn and abandoned, a woman's body covered by a sheet. The reporter's voice filled the safe house with devastating words. The victim has been identified as Kira Johnson, daughter of prominent Atlanta family, who disappeared from her wedding yesterday morning. Kira stared at the screen in shock. "That's not me." "Obviously," Logan said grimly, "but someone went to a lot of trouble to make it look like you." Jake muted the television. "This is actually perfect." "Perfect?" Kira turned to stare at him. "Someone is dead because of me." "Someone was probably dead already," Jake said with brutal honesty. "Your family just used the body as a prop. But think about what this means. You're officially dead. No one's looking for a dead woman." The next few days passed in a blur of planning and preparation. Jake's contacts in the legal world were impressive. Former prosecutors, investigative journalists, financial forensics experts who specialized in exposing corporate fraud. "The beauty of this situation," explained Sarah Chun, a lawyer who'd made her career destroying corrupt politicians, "is that they think they've won. Dead women don't contest wills or expose family secrets." Kira had dyed her hair dark brown and acquired glasses that changed her entire appearance. Looking in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. "I look like a librarian," she said. "You look like someone who could walk into a courtroom and destroy your enemies," Logan corrected. Their first legal victory came faster than expected. Sarah had filed papers challenging the Johnson family's management of the Mitchell Trust, citing evidence of financial misconduct. "They've been using your inheritance as their personal piggy bank for 20 years, Sarah explained. "Political campaigns, luxury purchases, investment losses, all funded with money that should have been yours." That night, in their temporary bedroom above the safe house, Kira celebrated by showing Logan exactly how free she felt. She pushed him against the wall, eyes blazing with newfound power. "I'm not hiding anymore," she breathed, fingers working his shirt buttons. "Not from them, not from this." When she kissed him, it was with the hunger of a woman finally free to take what she wanted. Her hands mapped his chest, his shoulders, his face like she was claiming territory. "Show me," he growled against her mouth. She did. With growing confidence, she loved him like she was writing her own story for the first time. When she moved against him, it was with the rhythm of someone who'd found her own power. Afterward, as they lay tangled in sheets, Logan traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "Any regrets about being dead?" he asked. "Only that it took me this long to realize I was never really alive before." "What would you do if you could start completely over with a clean slate? What would you change? Tell me in the comments, because sometimes losing everything is the only way to find out who you really are." Their celebration was cut short by Jake's urgent call. "You need to see the news." Now, the headline made Kira's blood run cold. "Deceased heiresses will contest thrown out. Johnson family inherits fortune." She'd been declared dead, disinherited, and defeated, which made her resurrection all the more devastating to her enemies. The press conference room at the Grand Hyatt buzzed with reporters who thought they were covering a routine business announcement. They had no idea they were about to witness a resurrection. Kira stood in the hotel bathroom, staring at her reflection. Gone was the brown hair and glasses. In their place, her natural black hair styled in a sleek bob, minimal makeup that emphasized her natural beauty, and a navy suit that screamed competence and power. "Ready?" Logan asked from the doorway. "I've been ready my whole life. I just didn't know it." He moved behind her, hands settling on her shoulders. In the mirror, they looked like what they'd become, partners in every sense of the word. "Remember," he said softly, "you're not asking for anything. You're taking back what was always yours." She turned in his arms, rising on her toes to kiss him once for luck. "Thank you. For everything. Thank me after we destroy them." The walk to the press conference felt like a funeral march. Fitting, since Kira Johnson was supposed to be dead. Sarah Chun stood at the podium, introducing what she called a significant development in the Mitchell Aviation inheritance case. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sarah said, "I'd like you to meet someone who's been the subject of considerable media attention. Someone who, according to recent reports, died tragically in a hotel room 3 days ago." The room fell silent. "I'd like you to meet the very much alive Kira Johnson." Kira stepped into the lights, and chaos erupted. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shouted questions. In the back of the room, she spotted a familiar face, one of her family's lawyers, already on his phone. 3 days ago, Kira began, her voice carrying clearly through the noise. The Johnson family announced my death. They held a funeral. They inherited a fortune that never belonged to them. They probably thought their problems were solved. The room quieted, hanging on every word. But I'm not dead, and I'm here to tell you exactly what the Johnson family has been hiding for 21 years. What followed was devastating. Financial records showing misuse of trust funds. Documentation proving her biological parentage. Evidence of the arranged marriage designed to prevent her from claiming her inheritance. Some of you might ask why I ran from my wedding. Kira continued. The answer is simple. I refuse to be sold like property to protect stolen money. The questions came fast and furious after that. But Kira answered each one with the confidence of someone who'd found her power. Have you ever had to fight for what was rightfully yours? What gave you the strength to keep going? Share your story below, because sometimes the only way to get justice is to stand up and demand it yourself. As she finished her statement, Logan noticed something that made his protective instinct scream. A red laser that dancing across Kira's chest from the building across the street. "Get down," he shouted, lunging toward her as the conference room window exploded in a shower of glass. The Johnson family had moved from legal warfare to something much more deadly. They tried to silence her with lawyers and money. When that failed, they brought guns. The hotel conference room erupted in chaos as Logan tackled Kira to the floor, the window behind them spiderwebbing from sniper fire. Screams and shouts filled the air as security rushed to control the scene. "Stay down." Logan's voice cut through the noise as he shielded her body with his. Glass fragments sparkled in her dark hair like deadly diamonds. His heart hammered against her back as he calculated their escape route. Jake's voice crackled through Logan's earpiece. "Shooters on the building across the street. My team's moving in, but you need to get out of there now." Logan helped Kira to her feet, both of them crouched low. Her white blouse was torn, revealing the smooth curve of her shoulder that made him want to protect her even more fiercely. "The service elevator," he whispered, pointing toward the back of the room. They moved through the chaos like dancers, his hand never leaving the small of her back. Hotel staff scattered around them while police sirens wailed in the distance. In the service elevator, pressed against each other in the small space, their breathing was the only sound. "They really want me dead," she said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "Over my dead body," Logan replied, meaning every word. Jake met them in the hotel's underground garage with a black SUV, engine running. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before they regroup," he said as they jumped in. "The shooter's been arrested, but this was professional. Someone paid good money for this hit." As they sped through Albany's back streets, Kira's phone buzzed. Her face went pale as she read the message. "It's from him," she whispered, showing Logan the screen. The message was from her adoptive father. "Surrender the inheritance or Logan dies next. You have 24 hours, Dad." Logan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The man who'd raised her, who'd supposedly loved her, was now threatening to kill the one person who'd shown her real love. "He's desperate," Logan said, his voice hard. "That press conference worked. We've got him cornered. But at what cost?" Kira's voice broke. "I can't let him hurt you because of me." Logan pulled over at a red light and turned to face her. Even disheveled and scared, she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "Listen to me," he said, cupping her face in his hands. "We're in this together. All the way. No one's surrendering anything." The light turned green, but he didn't move. Cars honked behind them as he kissed her hard, tasting fear and determination on her lips. When they broke apart, her eyes blazed with renewed fight. "Then we end this," she said. "Tonight. Have you ever been pushed so far that you had no choice but to fight back? What gave you the strength to keep going when everything seemed lost?" Drop your story in the comments below. As they reached Jake's compound, they thought they could finally breathe, until Jake's face told them otherwise. "They're not just coming for her," he said grimly. "They're coming for both of you." and they're bringing enough firepower to level this place. Choose the fortune that should have been hers, or the man who taught her she was worth more than money. The abandoned warehouse stretched like a cathedral of shadows, perfect for the final confrontation that would determine their future. Logan checked his weapon one last time, while Kira strapped on the wire Jake had given her. "You don't have to do this," Logan said for the 10th time. "Yes, I do." Her voice was steady now, all traces of the frightened runaway bride gone. "He's my monster to face." In the pre-dawn darkness of their room at Jake's compound, she'd loved him like it might be the last time. Every touch had been deliberate, every kiss a promise or goodbye. Her fingers had traced the scars on his chest, remnants from his foster care days, while he worshipped every inch of her skin like it was sacred. "Whatever happens," she'd whispered against his neck, "you saved me before you ever met me. Just by existing, you show me what freedom looked like." Now, as they approached the warehouse, those words echoed in his mind. She'd saved him too, shown him there was more to life than building empires and making money. "Remember," Jake's voice crackled through their earpieces, "we need them to confess on tape. Get them talking about your biological father's death, about the arranged marriage, about the attempts on your life." Kira nodded, her hand finding Logan's in the darkness. Her engagement ring, the one he'd given her, not the one forced on her, caught the moonlight. Such a simple thing, but it represented everything they were fighting for. "My team's in position," Jake continued. "But if this goes south, I need you both to hit the ground immediately." The warehouse door creaked open at Kira's touch. Inside, her adoptive family waited like vultures around a conference table. Her father, mother, brothers, and the senator's son she was supposed to marry. All of them in expensive suits, all of them looking at her like she was a problem to be solved. "Hello, Kira." Her father's voice was cold, businesslike. "I'm glad you came to your senses." "Did I?" She walked forward, chin raised, every inch the heiress she'd been born to be. "Because from where I'm standing, you all look terrified." Her adoptive mother laughed, the sound sharp as breaking glass. "Terrified? Honey, we're offering you a way out. Take the money we've already given you and disappear. Forget about your biological father's company. Forget about this man." She gestured dismissively at Logan. "The man I love," Kira corrected. "Love." Her father stood up, his face twisting with disgust. "You think love pays for your lifestyle? You think love built the life you've known?" "No," Kira said quietly. "Murder did." The silence that followed was deafening. Logan watched her family's faces, saw the moment they realized she knew the truth about her biological father's death. "When was the last time you had to choose between safety and what was right? Tell me about a moment when you refused to back down, even when you were outnumbered." Her father's smile was cold as winter. "Prove it," he said. And that's when Logan realized they'd walked into a trap far more dangerous than they'd imagined. The final battle wasn't fought with lawyers or contracts. It was won with truth, courage, and a recording device that captured everything. "Prove it," her father repeated, but his voice carried the desperation of a man whose world was crumbling. "You have no evidence, no weaknesses, just the paranoid fantasies of a girl who never appreciated what we gave her." Kira pulled out her phone, finger hovering over the play button. "Actually, I have this." The recording filled the warehouse with her father's voice from 3 years ago, drunk and boastful at a family gathering. Had to handle her real father personally. Man was getting too close to the truth about the merger. One little accident, and boom, inheritance secured for our girl. The color drained from every face at that table. Her mother's perfectly composed mask finally cracked. "Where did you get that?" "Your own security system." Jake's voice echoed from the warehouse speakers as his team moved in from all sides. Turns out rich people love to document everything, including murder. Logan stepped closer to Kira, ready to shield her for whatever came next. Her family looked like cornered animals now, all pretense of civility gone. "You ungrateful little witch," her father snarled, lunging toward her. Logan intercepted him, the two men crashing into the concrete floor. Years of foster care street fighting served him well as he pinned the older man down. "FBI, everyone on the ground." Jake's team flooded the warehouse, weapons drawn, badges gleaming. Kira watched as handcuffs clicked around the wrists of every person who'd claimed to love her while slowly destroying her soul. Her mother was led past her, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "We gave you everything," she hissed. "Everything. Except the truth," Kira replied. "Except choice. Except love." The senator's son, her former fiancé, stopped beside her as agents led him away. "You could have been happy," he said sadly. "We would have taken care of you." "Like a pet," she replied. "Like property. That's not happiness. That's just existing." Logan's arms came around her from behind as the warehouse emptied of her family. His warmth anchored her as she watched her past being led away in chains. "How are you feeling?" he asked softly. She leaned back against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong. "Free," she whispered. "Terrified and free." Jake approached them, grinning widely. "The recording's admissible. Your father's confession about the murder, the financial manipulation, the arranged marriage. It's all there. They're looking at life sentences." Kira turned in Logan's arms, seeing her future reflected in his eyes. No more running. No more hiding. No more living in reaction to other people's plans for her. "So what now?" Logan asked, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Now," she said, standing on her toes to kiss him, "we figure out who we are when we're not fighting for survival." The kiss tasted like victory and possibility. Around them, crime scene tape and evidence markers told the story of her family's corruption, but all she could focus on was the man holding her like she was precious. Have you ever had to cut ties with toxic family members? What gave you the strength to choose your own well-being over keeping the peace? Share your story below. Your courage might inspire someone else. As they walked out of the warehouse together, Kira realized something that should have terrified her, but instead filled her with excitement. She was completely free for the first time in her life. The only question now was what to do with that freedom. With her inheritance secured and her family in prison, she faced the hardest choice of all: learning to live for herself instead of in reaction to others. 6 months later, Kira stood in the penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park, watching snow fall in the city below. Every piece of furniture, every color, every detail reflected her choices. Not what was expected, not what was proper, but what she actually wanted. Logan emerged from the kitchen carrying 2 mugs of coffee, still wearing the Columbia sweatshirt she'd stolen from him that first night. Some things never changed, and she was grateful for the constants in her new life. "The foundation paperwork came through," he said, handing her the coffee. "We're officially approved to start helping women escape controlling families." She smiled, looking at the stack of applications on her desk. Letters from women across the country who'd heard her story and found the courage to reach out. Each one broke her heart and filled it simultaneously. 37 applications this week, she said. 37 women ready to choose freedom over fear. Logan's arms circled her waist from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "Your parents would hate knowing their actions led to this." "Good," she said simply. "Let them rot in prison knowing they created the very thing they tried to prevent. A woman who helps other women escape." The ring on her finger caught the afternoon light. Not the massive diamond her family had chosen, but a simple band with a stone Logan had picked himself. He'd proposed on the anniversary of their first meeting, in the same hotel room where they'd celebrated that first legal victory. "I don't want you to save me," she'd told him that night, rings sparkling on her finger. "I want us to save each other, every day, in small ways that matter." Now, watching people hurry through the snowy streets below, she felt the weight of possibility rather than obligation. The airline company she'd inherited was thriving under her leadership. The foundation was changing lives. And Logan was building something new too, a tech company focused on security for women leaving dangerous situations. "I have news," she said, turning in his arms. "Good news or interesting news?" "Life-changing news." She took his hand and placed it on her still flat stomach. "We're going to have a baby." His face transformed, wonder and joy replacing the careful control he usually maintained. "Are you sure?" "Positive. Due in August." She laughed at his expression. "Don't look so shocked." We've been trying for months. I know, but he kissed her softly, reverently. A baby. Our baby. Someone who'll grow up knowing they're wanted, knowing they have choices. Someone who'll never doubt they're loved, she agreed, tears streaming down her face. Outside, the city sparkled with possibility. Inside their home, they held each other and dreamed of the future they were building together. Not the one someone else had planned, but the one they chose every day. What would you do if you had complete freedom to design your life exactly how you wanted it? What dreams have you been too afraid to pursue? Tell me in the comments. Your courage to dream might inspire someone else to take that first step. The hardest part wasn't escaping her old life. The hardest part was learning to trust that this new life was real, was hers, was permanent. The bride walked down the aisle in designer white, not running from her wedding this time, but running toward the future she'd chosen. 18 months after that desperate night in Logan's cargo hold, Kira moved through the garden ceremony with confidence that radiated from every step. The venue bloomed with late spring flowers and the faces of women whose lives had been touched by their foundation. Former brides who'd found their own escape velocity, their own paths to freedom. Logan waited at the altar in a navy suit that made his eyes look like storm clouds, his foster brother Jake beside him as best man. When their eyes met, she saw everything reflected there. The fear, the danger, the desperate passion, and finally, the peace they'd fought so hard to find. Her matron of honor was Maria, the first woman their foundation had helped escape an arranged marriage in Texas. Her smile was radiant as she adjusted Kira's train, the same hands that had once shaken with fear, now steady with purpose. "You ready for this?" Maria whispered. "I've been ready since the day I met him," Kira replied. The ceremony was everything her first wedding wasn't. Chosen, wanted, celebrated. When Logan took her hands, his voice was steady as he spoke vows he'd written himself. "You taught me that love isn't about control or ownership. It's about choice. Every day, I choose you. Every day, I choose us. And I promise to keep choosing for as long as you'll have me." Her own vows came from the heart she'd finally learned to trust. "You saw me when I couldn't see myself. You protected me when I couldn't protect myself. But more than that, you taught me to protect myself. I choose you, Logan Pierce, not because I need you, but because I want you, today and always." The kiss that sealed their marriage tasted like joy and possibility, like freedom and home all at once. Around them, their chosen family erupted in celebration. Jake whooping loudly, Maria crying happy tears, dozens of women who understood exactly what this moment meant. Later, as they danced under stars and string lights, Logan whispered in her ear, "Mrs. Pierce." She laughed, the title feeling like victory instead of surrender. I like the sound of that. Their first dance was interrupted by a young woman approaching hesitantly. Kira recognized her from the foundation files. Carmen, 19, recently escaped from a family trying to force her into marriage with a man 3 times her age. "I just wanted to thank you," Carmen said, tears in her eyes. "Watching you today, it gives me hope that someday I'll have this too." "You will," Kira said firmly, pulling the girl into a hug. "Love on your terms, with someone who sees your worth. I promise." As the evening wound down, Logan carried her across the threshold of their home, not as conquest, but as celebration. Every touch was reverent, every kiss acknowledgement of the miracle that had brought them together. "We did it," she whispered against his lips as they made love with the unhurried passion of people who had all the time in the world. "We did," he agreed, his hands tracing the slight curve of her belly where their second child was growing. The foundation had helped over 200 women in its first year. Their first daughter was walking now, babbling mama and dada with equal enthusiasm. The airline company was pioneering new safety protocols for women traveling alone. Some stories end with rescue, but the best ones end with recognition of your own worth, your own power, your own right to choose. What would you tell your past self if you could go back to your lowest moment? Share your message of hope in the comments below. If this story reminded you that you have the power to change your life, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories about finding your freedom and your strength. Tell me in the comments what part of Kira's journey inspired you most. And remember, sometimes running away is actually running toward the life you were meant to live.